Welcome to another edition of the Glorious Wrestling Podcast with Nick and Dem. We've been away for a bit, but we're back. Well, I'm back. I'm still in our studios while someone else, my co-host Dem Panopoulos, is on holidays. But we have him via phone uplink, and he's here to discuss WWE Roadblock, which is out this Monday or Sunday if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. So we're going to discuss Roadblock. How are you today, Dem?
Not bad, Nick. Hello, everyone. I mean, this is a bit like the Stone Cold podcast. You got me on as an expert guest while you just ramble on about nothing while I provide some genuine insights. I like this setup.
Yeah, it's good. I can flip you off and you can't even tell. Anyway, so we'll get straight into the pay-per-view. It's a Raw exclusive pay-per-view, as you all know. Final pay-per-view of 2016. It's got probably going to be the last of this, 2 pay-per-views a month thing. Hopefully, because it's just been ridiculous the way they've been doing it since the brand split. So we'll get straight into the card, and that starting with the pre-show between Big Cass and Rusev. Take us away, Dan.
Well, it's a bit sad to see Rusev just straight into the pre-show now. I mean, he's obviously good talent. This rivalry has, to get to Big Cass versus Rusev, it's been a load of rubbish. They've degraded Lana sort of from a genuine, I know you've tweeted about it, a genuine sort of good manager to, what is she now? Probably just eye candy, I guess.
She's just an escort.
Yeah, which is sad to see. This is a tough match, I think, to think of the winner, and you just feel that they're going to give the win to Big Cass.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, why would... Yeah, they've had Rusev drop the US title. I don't see a point of giving Cass... I mean, they seem to be protecting Cass quite a bit like they protected Roman back when he was with the Shield. So you would assume, especially because it's on the pre-show, they would just give Cass the win. But we haven't even seen Cass in a big singles match before, so I'm interested in just seeing how he can, hold his own in a match like this.
Well, yeah, the only time we saw it was really when Enzo was out with concussion.
Yeah, and
he had that 3-4 week period where he was a singles guy fighting against... Was he fighting against Jericho, or he was certainly...
He was against Jericho, but did that match even start? I can't remember. I can't even remember if he had a proper match against him.
But we've seen a 3-week period since the time in NXT, maybe 3 years ago, where Enzo had broken his leg or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's been a 3-week period since then where Cass has been by himself. So this is probably the biggest match of his career to date in terms of a singles match.
Yeah.
And Rusev is a formidable opponent, and you hope this degrading certain superstars, we'll get to it later with Sami Zayn, unless you're hoping that it's the same sort of path they're taking with Kevin Owens in terms of not necessarily a title run, but to boost them up the card. We saw Owens lose to Zayn and then kind of involved with Enzo and Cass, out of nowhere he won the championship. So hopefully Rusev gets a big push soon enough, but it doesn't make any sense for him to win this match in particular after dominating against Enzo.
I can't see Rusev going anywhere, to be honest. I don't think there's a spot for him. I just can't see it, even especially because we're coming into WrestleMania season. He'll probably be in the Rumble, but I can't really think about any situations where he could
be
even
be the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle winner.
Yeah.
Hopefully give him something to go towards in the mid to late parts of 2017. Otherwise, he's stuck in a bit of nothingness now, while Big Cass is just boosting his profile.
Yeah, so we've both got Big Cass winning this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first match on the main card is for the WWE Tag Team Championships, which is Cesaro and Sheamus getting another shot at the titles against the longest reigning tag team champions of all time, the New Day. Before we get into the match itself, what do you think about New Day breaking the record?
I think it's well deserved. I know a lot of people are sick and tired of New Day, which, I guess they've been faces for a while, so somewhat understandable, but they shouldn't be copping heat for breaking the record. They have been unbelievable. Their longevity has been brilliant. They've adapted. They've kept going. They're still one of the most entertaining acts on the card.
Absolutely.
On both Raw and SmackDown, regardless of what people might think. And, this milestone, I guess, is a testament to how hard they've worked as a team, as a unit. And we all know the story where, they thought the three of them were struggling like themselves taking the New Day and they've made it into something special. And so I think congratulations to them. Yourself?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think hindsight has sort of made people... I'm sorry, not hindsight, but like nostalgia for the past has sort of overrated Demolition. They weren't actually that good. I'll say that right now.
No.
The New Day have earned this. There's no tag team in WWE history that didn't feature main event talent has gotten this kind of reaction and this kind of reaction consistently. I mean, they're the top merch sellers in WWE. As heels, as faces, they've been outstanding for, 2 years now. They absolutely deserve this. And the Raw, there's no one in the Raw tag team division that should take the titles off them right now. And getting into this match,
should is.
Yeah, I can't see them losing the titles until WrestleMania. I mean, I hope that they've beaten the record now. Now let them hold the titles, turn them heel here. I think you should turn them heel here with Cesaro and Sheamus. Have them drop the titles to Enzo and Cass at WrestleMania. But for now, their story is just starting. They can't just break the record and then drop the titles. I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. You've read my mind here. I think this is... they will turn heel here as well. I think they'll retain, but I think Cesaro and Sheamus, but somehow, WWE has managed to get Sheamus somewhat over. And, I've never disliked Sheamus.
Yeah.
He's a little a dull worker, and I guess seeing him repetitively against the same opponents does get a bit boring, but, it can be entertaining. It's
absolutely.
Not, I've liked Sheamus, and Sheamus and Cesaro, this has turned out to be, a solid tag team, and hopefully this isn't somewhere where they try and break them up. Hopefully this is somewhere where they turn you heel and it just gets Sheamus and Cesaro closer, because at the moment, as you said with Rusev, there's no real spots for either of them on the card to flourish as a singles competitor unless they move to SmackDown, but that's not going to happen. So, hopefully they stay with these two for a while, split them up in the future where Cesaro could go to SmackDown, but hopefully they use this as a way for New Day to turn heel, Cesaro and Sheamus to get closer and stronger together.
The only issue is, there's no mid-card tag team feuds. So, we saw Enzo and Cass and Gallows and Anderson have a 1 week feud that meant nothing. I don't think we'll be able to see Gallows and Anderson versus Sheamus and Cesaro or something like that. They just won't do it because it will be meaningless. I think what I would do, honestly, is have Sheamus and Cesaro go into the Royal Rumble as partners, compete in the Rumble match, and then maybe have Roman Reigns drop the US title to Cesaro, since he clearly doesn't give a shit about that title. So have Cesaro claim the US title, and then you can sort of phase them out rather than breaking them up, have them mutually part ways. You could even have... I wouldn't mind seeing one more Cesaro-Sheamus match for the US title. Probably not on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe on a Raw.
Well, no, that can be a thing. That can be a driving factor into splitting up.
Yeah. I would like to see them split up with neither turning heel. I think they should just mutually part ways.
Yeah.
I'm kind of enjoying Sheamus as almost this tweener at the moment. He works well as, just being a regular person. He's almost like Big Show in that way.
Yes, where they can be entertaining and they can flourish in that sort of role. So, no, that's a fair point, but I think we both agree here that New Day turn heel.
And win, yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and win.
So the next match on the card is the triple threat match for the Cruiserweight Championship. TJP versus Brian Kendrick versus the champ Rich Swann. I don't see this going any other way than just getting a win under Swann's belt. He's facing his two prior opponents. So you think he would get the win here and then move on to something else? I can't see this being... I think this is pretty straightforward, to be honest. And TJP beat Rich Swann on 205 Live this week, so WWE booking dictates that Swann retains his title, don't you think?
And he should.
Yeah.
You can't get him to drop it right now. Let him work up to it. What I would like to see is a heel Neville come in as the next challenger for the title. There's no real... Unless they keep going with Kendrick, but it doesn't make sense to keep going with Kendrick.
No, get Neville in there.
I'd like to see Neville, and a heel Neville, like a ruthlessly aggressive sort of Neville, would be interesting to see. He can still have the red arrow as his finisher. I don't know, it's a cool move, and traditionally WWE doesn't like having cool moves for heels, but he's the type of guy, because of his strength and power for his size, he can work well as a heel. So I'd like to see that happen. Imagine Neville versus Swan.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. I think this feud writes itself. Swan retains here. Neville appears on 205 Live or Raw and beats the crap out of him. You know, he hasn't been on Raw or 205 Live at all. He feels underutilized. He goes out, attacks Swan. We get the feud there. Neville takes the title, holds it for a long time, drops it to Gallagher at WrestleMania, maybe Cedric Alexander. I think Gallagher and Alexander are the two long-term mega prospects for not just the Cruiserweight division, but for Monday Night Raw in general. So I think...
Exactly, they can go beyond the Cruiserweight.
Exactly. I think Neville can be not a transitional champion, but a long-term transitional champion, where you have him making the division as good as it can be, because he's in the best 3 to 5 wrestlers in the entire company. So you put the title on Neville, you're guaranteed good matches, especially as a heel, when he can put over guys like Swan, or guys like maybe even in TJP if we get that match again, Gargano if he comes up, stuff like that.
Exactly, and I mean, this not only would it be like a longer transitional thing for Neville, but it can also boost his profile because they've taken away all sorts of momentum for him.
Yeah.
So, holding the Cruiserweight Championship for a few months and then dropping it, that can elevate him to challenge for other titles. For, he could move to SmackDown, challenge for the IC title. He could do whatever.
Yeah.
And as you said, he's one of the top wrestlers in the company, so they need to get him in as soon as possible. And I don't know how we've both agreed for him to come back as a heel to go against Swan, but I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, we're agreeing with each other far too much, and that's getting a bit annoying. So we'll move on to...
That's out of nowhere, that one.
So we'll move on to the next match, which is probably the one that has the best storyline coming into this pay-per-view, and that's Braun Strowman versus Sami Zayn. And I didn't think I would be saying that about a Braun Strowman feud. To me, this is Braun Strowman's breakout moment. This is the match he needs to nail. I'm assuming it's basically a beat-the-clock challenge. If Braun or Sami don't win the match within 10 minutes, then that's it. It's the end of the match. So I think that you have two options with this match. You either have Braun win convincingly, or you have Sami survive. I don't think there's any other option. It either goes for 2 minutes or it goes for the full 10. Maybe have Sami fail at like 9:58, but I'd like to see Braun maybe even lock some kind of submission hold on Sami, who survives the 10 minutes. The buzzer goes, and then Braun just beats the ever-living crap out of Sami to get his heat back. Just beats Sami into a pulp. We don't see Sami until the Royal Rumble match itself, and then have Sami almost like fighting through the pain to be in the Rumble match. That's what I would do.
Yeah, so I like the fact Braun Strowman has got a different finishing move every single week.
I love it, yeah.
I mean, and he's improving, he's working hard, obviously, and, I mean, I see your second option. I see Sami Zayn, like, surviving, so it will be like a no contest, a draw, or whatever, and that Strowman doesn't look weak there for not finishing off one of the best wrestlers in the company, even though he's the underdog from the underground, even though he's, been built like, you can't last 2 minutes with him, blah, blah, blah. It still doesn't lose any strength for Strowman, I don't think.
No, because...
that happening, especially if he does sort of demolish him after the match.
No wrestler sells a beating like Sami Zayn. Sami can take an absolute pounding from Strowman and just keep kicking out. Just be... Not as if he's like not putting over Strowman's offense, just that Sami Zayn just will not quit. And I think that's completely different to sort of like a Cena or a Roman kicking out of everyone's finishes.
It's the perfect match, and with such a short sort of time limit to elevate or boost both their profiles.
Yeah.
But if Strowman isn't performing, it wouldn't surprise me if they called it in-ring. Like, if he doesn't do well in the first 3-4 minutes, it wouldn't surprise me if they call it in-ring, just give him the win.
Yeah.
Only because 10 minutes is a lot of exposure on a pay-per-view for someone that hasn't really wrestled for more than 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, and you can't squash someone. Can't squash someone for 10 straight minutes either. So they're going to have to come up with some kind of contest.
So it's a huge stage. It's a huge thing for Braun Strowman, and I think it will be called in ring. But my prediction is that it just goes out, peters out to a no contest.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly a big pay-per-view because we've got Cass trying to prove that he can hang in a singles match. We've got Strowman in really his first really his first match. I mean, you can't really count anything else he's had so far as a genuine match. So this is a big chance for him. He's in the ring with Sami Zayn, who's probably the best storyteller in the WWE. So it's all lined up for him. He's got to deliver here, and I think he will. I think he's been improved. I wouldn't say he's improved. I think he's just finally got a chance to show what he can do. I mean, he's learning every week, and we get a chance now to see whether he can hang with a good performer. And I think this is a chance to get both of them over with a 10-minute draw.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we'll move on to the next match on the card, which is Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho, which you can tell is clearly just a transitional match while they are. I guess. See, I don't really understand what they're doing here, mainly because what is the timeline here? When are we getting Owens Jericho? Is that happening at WrestleMania? Is that happening at the Royal Rumble? I don't think Owens and Jericho is a big enough match for WrestleMania. I don't think Jericho has that level of star power anymore, even though he's was one of the most over things in the company. I don't see it lasting until WrestleMania. I think they have to throw that together at the Royal Rumble, which means when does Seth get his match? I mean, do they just go Seth beats Jericho and then Seth versus Owens? You can't do Seth versus Owens versus Jericho because then you're kind of diluting both feuds. So I'm very curious to see where this Rollins versus Owens match actually happens, if it happens at all.
Well, I'm leaning towards it not happening for Seth Rollins against Kevin Owens, and you're right about the Jericho one because they have to do Owens versus Jericho.
Yeah,
that's a must, which means I don't think Rollins will get another shot at Owens. And I mean, Triple H has to feature somewhere here, even if they play his music or something, without him appearing. It's been too long between.
Yeah, no, they've definitely missed the boat.
Screwed Rollins over, and Rollins now calling him out of the blue 2 months or whatever after it happened.
Yeah.
And if they really want Seth Rollins versus Triple H to fly back up again, I think that Triple H has to appear here.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Rollins will beat Jericho.
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a no-win situation. I think if Jericho loses, he's not exactly a credible threat for Owens' title. And I think Rollins can take a loss here and not really lose any credibility. A Triple H interference would be interesting, but I don't know how you work that in, considering they want to turn Jericho face. Like, you can't give Jericho a full heel victory here. I mean, I honestly would hold off on Triple H until the Rumble. I mean, they've waited this long. Might as well wait a bit longer. Have Rollins in the Rumble match and have Triple H interfere and toss Rollins out towards the end. You know? I think that would be... Because I'm actually going to tip Jericho here, simply because I feel like if you're going to have him in the WWE Championship match at the Rumble, you might as well give him a win here, because this is a meaningless match, let's be honest. So...
Well, yeah, especially with the fact that it made sense 3 weeks ago when Jericho and Owens were best buddies still, and now that they're not, now that it's clear there's, a feud brewing between the two, it doesn't make sense really to have Rollins versus Jericho.
Yeah, I mean...
I know Jericho had an influence on the outcome of matches and stuff, but you don't feel right now that Jericho's a full-on heel, and you kind of need that for a Rollins feud at the moment, where he's still in that early stage of being a face, so
it seems
you can't really have him. Jericho's a bit of a, not quite the tweener, but he's transforming into a tweener at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like all the big feuds on Raw at the moment, just they exist because they exist. There's no real storyline there. There's no reason for them. Whereas you look at SmackDown and you can say, okay, well, you know why Becky and Alexa are going at it. You know why AJ and Ambrose were going at it. Like, Owens and Reigns, there's no storyline. Rollins and Jericho, there's basically no storyline. Like, Sasha and Charlotte have been going at it for so long that we can't really pinpoint a storyline there. You know what I mean?
I don't remember why they're wrestling yet.
They're wrestling because there's a title there and they're equals and stuff.
That's it.
Yeah. Anyway, so the next match on the card is the WWE Universal Championship match. Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns. the United States champion, Roman Reigns, I should say, taking on Kevin Owens.
It's easy to forget.
It is easy to forget considering he was on Raw, I think, 4 times and had the title once. So, yeah, I mean, I can't see this going down any other way than Owens retaining. But how do they get Owens a win over Roman since they clearly don't want to give Owens a clean win ever?
I've been wrestling with that myself. I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, Owens wins, but
yeah. Could you imagine if they put both titles on Roman?
They can't do it.
They can't.
They can't. They can't do it.
They tease putting 3 titles on him.
Surely... Sorry?
They tease putting 3 titles on him.
Yeah, well... that was close. I don't know, unless they somehow get Reigns in a US... Somehow someone interferes and distracts Reigns, setting up Owens with a new best friend and a credible challenger for the US title. That's off the top of my head, but that seems like the only way to have Owens win, not clean.
I mean,
unless he could blatantly do something, but...
Yeah. I mean, before his suspension, it was clear nobody beats Roman Reigns clean. But since his suspension, we've seen Seth do it, we've seen Finn Balor do it. Would they put Owens over clean? Surely. I mean, I don't understand. Like, this is one thing about WWE. They don't like credible heel champions. I mean, we're seeing it with AJ now that when you do give yourself a credible heel champion, he becomes the coolest thing in the entire company. But Owens, they've seemed reluctant to give him, to show that he can win a match by himself. I mean...
Well, yeah, they don't want him to be credible, especially given the feud with Jericho, where he's been so reliant on Jericho, and I don't think they're ready to give him that clean win. So I'd be very surprised if he got a clean win.
Yeah.
But he's going to win.
Yeah, I think we both agree that Owens is leaving with the title, either way.
So, I think surely someone has to get...
But who?
Reigns has to have a US title feud.
I mean, he does.
You can't just not have any... You can't have the US... I know he defended against Jericho last week or the week before, but...
Yeah, that doesn't count.
I mean, there's no one else ready to step up, so...
I would love a Roman Reigns-Cesaro feud for the US title. I think that's the money thing. Either going into the Rumble or coming out of the Rumble. I mean, you could probably just put Roman and Miz both in the Rumble and not have the mid-card titles defended at all. But I think, yeah, Roman-Cesaro would be bloody awesome.
Yeah, but that's not going to have an influence on this particular match, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Owens wins.
Owens wins somehow. I think that's the way we're going here. Or maybe Owens and Jericho's whole argument thing has been a ruse again and, you know, they're still best buds, but I would not like to see that.
It best not be.
Yeah, that would be an absolute waste, that would be. Okay, so I think, yeah, again, annoyingly, we both agree. The only match we've disagreed on so far is Rollins-Jericho. So I
don't know if that's going to change, yeah.
Yeah, nope. So we don't know if it's the main event of Roadblock, but it should be because
it should be. Yeah.
There's no reason for it not to be, considering Roman and Owens has literally no feud, and this is the culmination of essentially a 7-month feud in a 30-minute Iron Woman match. Are they calling it an Iron Man match? Okay, whatever.
I don't know.
No, it says Iron Man for some reason. Anyway. So Sasha Banks versus Charlotte one final time. I mean, the pay-per-view is called End of the Line, so the pay-per-view is named after them. So you would assume they go on last. It makes sense they go on last. And,
I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Okay. I think Sasha retains. I mean, I know they've got this massive streak going with Charlotte, and that's sort of the only little thing. And I wish they had played that up more on Raw, because, like, it should be a big factor in like this match. But considering they weren't even on Raw this week, they just did a 2-minute package, which is incredibly lazy. I honestly think Charlotte has to lose here. I don't think... I mean, we heard on Raw, they said that whoever wins this match, there isn't a rematch clause. This is it. Like, end of the line. So I think Sasha has to retain and move on. I want to see a women's Royal Rumble match, so I would have Sasha and Alexa sort of sit out at the Royal Rumble and just watch the Rumble match. So I think that for the time being, Sasha wins. Maybe have a feud with Nia Jax in the meanwhile. Yep. Maybe bring back Emelina for that feud. But Charlotte and Bayley have to go their separate ways, and I think you just close the book here with a Sasha victory.
Yep. You pretty much summed it up exactly what I thought.
God damn it.
Yeah, and I think Nia Jax has to be the next one. But I think eventually they'll have to plant the seeds for a heel turn, which will allow Sasha versus Bayley, hopefully at WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, Sasha has to turn
Nia
it.
could be Nia's still a few until they turn Sasha heel.
Mm.
Because it'll be tough to turn Bayley heel with
Impossible.
with the hug life.
And you can't turn Sasha heel on Nia. That just wouldn't make sense.
No, so it has to be, you know, her and Bayley celebrating or something, and then I don't know. We can deal with that when it comes. But yeah, Sasha.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real way. I mean, who can you turn Sasha heel on, with the exception of Bayley? Because the Raw mid-card right now is Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Dana Brooke. And
That has to be Bayley.
yeah, I mean, but how can you turn her heel on Bayley without giving away the Bayley-Sasha match too early?
That's a good question. But it has to happen.
It does.
So unless you have them start as faces, start the rivalry as faces, go, yep, you deserve a title shot. Sasha says, you know, you deserve a title shot. Then maybe Bayley beats her in a non-title match, and Sasha starts to get insecure about it, and then that culminates in them already in a feud, but her turning heel mid-feud.
I mean, as I said, I wanted to do I think that they're going to do a women's Royal Rumble match. I think that you have either Sasha toss Bayley out of that, or you have SmackDown just win, and I would have Asuka win and come up and challenge either Alexa or Becky. So I would keep
holding the title.
Yeah, I would have her be come up to the main roster, still undefeated, still the NXT Women's Champion. Have her relinquish the NXT Women's title, undefeated, come up to the main roster, and then just torment Becky and Alexa. I think you can use the Royal Rumble to set up the SmackDown side of things. The Raw side of things sets itself up with, I mean, Bayley versus Sasha is the clear, obvious match. You don't need Bayley to win the Royal Rumble to do that. But you could have her come in as the number one entrant, fight all the way to the end, and then have her tossed out by Sasha, who's, you know, worried because she hasn't been able to beat Bayley. I mean, the feud writes itself. They've just got to have the courage to do it.
Yeah, it has to happen some sort of way where Sasha, I think playing up insecurities makes sense. But yeah, so Charlotte's out of the title picture, it looks like, for the time being. Well, according to us, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't mind. I think every single one of their matches has delivered. The one they had, the Falls Count Anywhere match was the best of them. I think that's actually a genuine match of the year candidate. So, I mean, it's been a fantastic series of matches that will go down in history for a very long time. So we can't discount that. I think Sasha will probably win. Maybe. What do you think the score will be? I would like to see it 1-0. I would love to see them go 30 minutes not being able to beat each other, and then Sasha taps Charlotte out on the buzzer or something.
Well, yeah, you don't want it to be high scoring, otherwise it sort of ruins what has been such a long feud. So I think typical WWE thing will be 2-1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll go with that only because they're creatures of habit.
Yeah. I'm thinking 3-2. 3-2 Sasha. Okay. And final question before we wrap things up. We've seen it before in a women's Iron Woman match. Will Sasha Banks make any children cry?
Will Sasha Banks what, sorry?
Make any children cry because, you know, she has a record.
Yeah. I think so, and she will try and double or triple that tally.
Find Izzy somewhere in the crowd and just make her cry. That's still my favourite moment in any match of all time.
Hopefully it's like on a balcony, or they get some sort of like executive suite for them, and Sasha goes up mid-match does something extraordinary to create tears.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there because that's the entire pay-per-view, and we're about 29 minutes in, so that'll do. Okay, so that's our predictions for WWE Roadblock. We'll be back next week with our Royal Rumble predictions. That's going to be interesting. So we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining in to the Glorious Wrestling Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at GloriousWP. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Negropontus, and you can follow Dem on Twitter at
DemP DMP_9.
DMP_9, assuming that you can hear him. I haven't even checked, so hopefully you can hear him. We're going to leave it there.
Hopefully.
Thank you for joining us.